everybody. Some pretty big news just dropped in the NFL as one of the more talented tight ends in the league, David Njoku of the Cleveland Browns, has come out and said that he is requesting a trade before the start of training camp, which is set to start in about 3 weeks in the NFL, that he wants out of Cleveland. Now, this was kind of speculated on that would be the case before the year started, being that the Cleveland Browns went out there and they spent a ton of money on Austin Hooper. Austin Hooper, of course, I think is the highest paid tight end in the sport right now, formerly of the Falcons. The Browns went out there, spent a ton of money on him. Not just him, they also brought in Conklin as they look to revamp this roster. But most people thought that after they extended Njoku on the 5th-year option of his rookie contract, he's going into his 4th year on the same time span of Evan Engram, that he would be in the team's long-term plans, or at least for the next couple of years. So you're going to have him on a very cost-effective rate for the next 2 years if you were to go out and to try to bring in Njoku to the New York Giants or another team. Now, does he make sense for the Giants? I don't really think so. He's coming off an injury, and something that we complain about with Evan Engram. He only played, I think, a game last year. The year before, he had a strong season in which he nearly eclipsed 700 yards, and he's clearly a very talented tight end. He went number 29 overall, entering his 4th year in the NFL. But I think there's a number of other teams where he makes a lot more sense. And one of those teams are within our division. And I'm sure there's a lot of other teams. But when I heard this rumor, there are 2 teams that came to mind for me. Now, I'll start with my team, being that I'm a New York Giants fan, and talk about that. Is it possible that the Giants could look to bring him in? Sure. But the Giants, if I'm the Giants, I'm not looking to trade away assets when I'm pretty strong at that position to begin with. Outside of Evan Engram, you still have Caden Smith, who was pretty good last year, and you have Toilolo. It doesn't make a ton of sense to me unless you feel like Evan Engram is not in the team's long-term plans. But I feel like him and Engram are kind of, it's not really an upgrade. If you were to bring in Njoku, he has just as big of an injury concern, being that he missed all of last season. So I don't really see the New York Giants being a fit. Where I see the best fit for David Njoku is, one, the Washington Redskins, who are, from within the division. The Redskins have had a history of having very talented tight ends, whether it be Fred Davis, whether it be a number of other players, Jordan Reed, who couldn't stay on the football field in his own right, but they kind of have a lack of depth at that position. They could definitely use another playmaker. They're a team starving for a playmaker. So the Redskins could make a lot of sense for the second-year quarterback, Dwayne Haskins, being right now they really only have one reliable weapon. I'm not going to go with Antonio Gandy-Golden. The guy's a 4th-round pick, I believe it is, out of Liberty. He's unproven. A guy like David Njoku could certainly help out your young quarterback with Haskins. So the Redskins were the first team that came to mind. In terms of what the asking price would be, well, I'm not 100% sure. Like I said, he's still under a cost-effective contract, but I don't know how much you would get for him, being that he's coming off an injury and being that he's not the most talented tight end in the league. He's definitely good. I don't know what the price tag would be. I don't think you would get anything near a 1st or 2nd round pick. You might get a 3rd or a 4th for him, but the Redskins could make a ton of sense. The other team that really made a lot of sense to me when I thought about it was the New England Patriots. There's another team that's known for having very talented tight ends, and not to mention, Cam Newton's had a history of doing well with tight ends, right? What he did with Greg Olsen while he was with the Carolina Panthers. They don't really have any talent at that position right now, or at least known talent. They lose Rob Gronkowski. Could a guy like David Njoku make sense for the New England Patriots, a team that's looking clearly to compete this year? They went out there and they added Cam Newton, an established pro, who I think they're going to look to try to compete and win the AFC East this year. And if they want to do that, well, that is a team that lacked weapons last year. They went out there, they tried to bring in Antonio Brown. That didn't work out. N'Keal Harry didn't have the best of rookie seasons, and they can use as much firepower as they can get. And with a brilliant offensive line like Bill Belichick, David Njoku could make a lot of sense. That, to me, is the team that makes the most sense. And I'm sure there's a number of other teams, teams trying to compete. But for me, the first 2 teams that popped in my head were the Washington Redskins and the New England Patriots. As far as the New York Giants go, like I said, I don't really see it being much of a match because the New York Giants, for one, right now, they're not a win-now team. He's on the same timeline as Evan Engram. Both of them are set to hit free agency in 2 years. Both are coming off an injury. I think Evan Engram is probably a better prospect. I don't see the attraction for the New York Giants. Yes, we could use another weapon, but if we were going to add another weapon, I think it would be at the wide receiver position. I think the Redskins, I think the Patriots make the most sense. Now, will he be traded? We'll have to wait and see. I'm not shocked that he's come out and said this. David Njoku wants to get playing time. He wants to be a number 1 tight end. He's looking to get paid handsomely after his rookie contract expires. And with the team he's with now, the Cleveland Browns, he's not going to. He's not going to get that opportunity. Austin Hooper is clearly the number one threat there at the tight end position. They've got a lot of mouths to feed with guys like Odell Beckham and Jarvis Landry. And I just don't see him getting enough targets to, really show his full skill set, which I still think is one of, a very talented tight end in this league. And I'm sure he wants to be compensated for that. So he wants to get the best opportunity over his last 2 years on this rookie deal to showcase his skill set. But I don't even think the New York Giants would be that opportunity. Now, of course, the Giants and Browns do have a trade history, but I believe they moved on from their general manager. The Giants made 2 trades last year. One, of course, included Odell Beckham. The other had us bringing in Kevin Zeitler for Olivier Vernon. So there's some history there. But in terms of the fit, it doesn't make much sense. For me, it'll be the Redskins or the Patriots, unless there's another team out there that could make sense, which I'm sure there's a couple of others. But to me, those were the first 2 teams I thought of. As always, guys, if you liked what you watched, please subscribe. Drop a comment. Maybe give me a little thumbs up. Cheers.